ball and turn towards the basket. And I think you're going to see that a lot. I think you're going to see Caleb down low fighting, and then when they get the ball down low to Young, I think you're going to see help, which is going to be important for the other guys to try to keep an eye out, because that obviously when you double team someone, you're going to have someone open,
which Cade Cunningham.
Exactly right. Cade with a corner three. And you were mentioning Boone with those first 2 points. They were impressive.
Threw that thing down.
Alley-oop over Rasir Bolton.
When Caleb Boone dunks, he dunks.
Yeah, he does.
Like, he will get on top of you and throw that thing down.
And there it was. You just saw Young get the ball down low, and then the backside you had Rondell Walker come over.
Well, and that's clearly going to be their goal, Iowa State, is get it into the post and kind of work it from inside out. But right now, no answer for Cade Cunningham early with 5 quick points.
And I talked about it earlier in the year. And that play right there was a little indicative of it. I was kind of curious to see when Cade was going to start getting those superstar fouls called for him. And like that right there, if that's any other superstar in the league, they get a foul called. I mean, he made it. He made the floater, but there's Caleb Boone with another dunk. Yeah, that was impressive.
Hey, the other thing too, right there, and then we get a quick Iowa State timeout, 9-5 OSU lead. Another throwdown by Caleb Boone on transition. That's been the thing. It was 37 transition points scored by OSU against Kansas State.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. They live in the fast break, and if they can do that here against Iowa State, which they found plenty of room in the middle of the floor. That's the other thing that maybe goes underrated. We talk about Cade Cunningham and his ability to pass the ball, but how about looking up ahead, and his court vision is something right here, as you can see. Yeah, he's got his eyes up the entire way. He knows exactly where he's going, and give Caleb credit for running the floor like a big man should there. So that's a great start.
And that's 5 quick points from Cunningham.
First half points, Zach. First half.
Not even first 3 minutes.
That's right.
First 3 minutes.
The first half of the first half.
Now, I'll be curious to see if he keeps that up. This is a really good start for Oklahoma State. Caleb had that first bucket on that alley-oop to start the game, and then Iowa State scored 5 quick points, and you were kind of like, okay, what's Oklahoma State going to do? And then Avery gets a turnover there on the far side on defense. He forces a turnover. And then you get a big corner three from Cade, and then you get another kind of a fadeaway from Cade, and then you get another bucket and a quick timeout. So, I mean, Oklahoma State, they're off to a really quick start, and I hope that they can continue this quick start, because as of right now, knock on wood, it's a controlled quick start.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you want to see, because it means that you're not turning the ball over a ton, right?
Exactly.
If you're controlled, and that's been the main issue with turnovers has been bad passes, because they do like to push the pace, but sometimes it gets so out of control that it ends up being a case where you're turning it over, and that leads to droughts in scoring as well on the other end. You lose the ball, don't have a chance to set up how you'd like to, but we've seen a lot of good movement so far again with this OSU team offensively, and the other part is Caleb Boone again just dunked over another guy. That's his 3rd dunk of the game on all 6 of his points. Oh my gosh, dude can fly. But the other part of it, no Isaac Likely again.
Yeah, they were saying that he's suited up and he looks to be available. But it's gonna be like Kansas State. I think you're gonna see, if Iowa State goes on a big run, and they take a lead, and Oklahoma State's really struggling and they need to get a stop, then I think you'll see Ice come in and to help facilitate that stop. But the way it's looking right now, and I kind of figured that he wouldn't play a whole bunch, but he is available to help stop a run if need be.
Yeah.
Because that's what he provides. Right now, that foot injury, we talked about it yesterday, it's more of an ailment than an injury. It's not going to get any worse, but it's not going to get any better without rest. So the rest that he's gotten is really important. But when he was really struggling from the field to find points, he could still go out there and provide a stop. He could still get a steal. He could dish out 2 quick assists and help get points on the board. So I would expect Ice to be available at some point. Honestly, I don't want to see him on the floor, but he's there and can help out if need be.
Oh, and Zach, in case you were wondering, as ESPN just said, coming up next is Cade Cunningham's NBA evaluation.
Yeah, dude, I saw a video. Someone had put it on our message boards. ESPN's comparing him to Luka Doncic.
Multiple times. They had a story on ESPN today that said, could Cade Cunningham be the next Luka Doncic?
So when you don't read the article and all you do is watch the video, you could see you can make those comparisons because their game, like the clips they provide, are nearly mirror image of each other.
Yeah.
Like it was impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I like the comparison in the sense that their games look similar, but I'm going to hold off on comparing Cade Cunningham to one of the top 5 NBA players right now because I think that's unfair.
Well, it is.
If Cade came out this year and he were averaging 18.5 points like he is, but he's also averaging 6 assists a game and 8 rebounds a game, and he's not turning it over. And it's clear that Cade Cunningham is a top 5 player in college basketball at any given moment because he's very, very good. There's no question about that. I don't think Oklahoma State would be where they are right now without him, but at times he's turning the ball over 6-7 times a game. So if he were clear like NCAA freshman of the year, not Big 12 freshman of the year, but across the college basketball landscape, then I would be like, okay, I think it's fair to actually compare him to an NBA superstar.
I think part of it was that he had actually said as well that he watches a lot of Luka film and likes to, emulate what he does, takes a lot away from what Luka does in his game in the NBA. But with the other part of it as well, we mentioned the floor vision that he's shown a little bit in this game, and you talked about the turnovers that Cade has had personally this season. A lot of that has been with his head down, and he does have really good floor vision most of the time. But when he gets out of control, dribbling, trying to get to a certain spot, you see him kind of lose that a little bit. But when he does keep that head up and looks for the open guy, well, we can see like a pass we saw the other day, right, against Kansas State where it was highlight reel material. So it's certainly going to be something that he can improve on. But, man, when he's also a really good passer, it's so easy to overshadow everything else he does with the way he scores the basketball at times as well. But so far, out of the first break, we've seen a lot of scoring in this game. And I think Oklahoma State is comfortable running this game the way that it's going right now. If it's going to be a track meet, Iowa State doesn't have the offense to keep up with that as long as OSU keeps scoring. Now, you don't want to see any type of a 5-6 minute drought like we've seen with this OSU team in terms of their scoring production. But if they're going to be in an open floor game, that's where they're most comfortable. They'll take that all day long. And Iowa State, coming in, Zach, this was going to be for them to have any type of chance here against OSU. It was to slow the pace. That means we're going to set up a ton of offensive sets here. We're going to take our time, get some shots deep into the shot clock, and that'd be very effective if you had a lot of guys offensively that are going to score the ball. That's not necessarily the case with this team, but if they can slow it down, which to me that's for any team coming up, by the way, that faces Oklahoma State. If they can slow it down, they get them uncomfortable. But if you try to get in a track meet, that's where Oklahoma State can stay with any team in the country, really.
Yeah, and I think something that's going to be important for Oklahoma State's success today, we've mentioned it multiple times, is going to be Caleb Boone. You go back to that Kansas State game, and Caleb was, he started out with 6 points. He wasn't doing bad. Same thing with the Kansas game. Caleb was feeling it early on in that Kansas game, and just kind of dropped off. We didn't see him much down low. That's what we've seen so far today. We've seen 6 quick points from Caleb. He's setting with he's not in the game, so I got to go to the home stats. They put MA's in the game now.
Yeah,
that kind of threw me. So he's setting with 6 points in 5 minutes. Well, I think at the 15-minute mark, that's a good spot to pull him out and get him a little bit of a breather, put MA in the game, and see what MA is going to do. But when Caleb comes back out onto the court, he needs to have that same intensity. He needs to be able to, he needs to be in the game right there to try to stop that Euro step.
Yeah, you need help side defense right there. You really, really do. As, Cade, that's kind of been the other issue in terms with him defending a lot of the times. As you see off the ball, he'll give too much space to a player occasionally. And at times you want to use that baseline as an extra defender. But there's been a lot of times where he'll give it a little too much space.
And it's important right now what they're doing. See, that's actually really good for Oklahoma State. Obviously, it's a foul. But there were like 3 straight trips where Oklahoma State took a shot within the first 10 seconds of being across midcourt. And they were bad shots, and they were misses. And then Iowa State would go down, and they'd hit a bucket, or they'd miss, and then Oklahoma State would be back down. And, so that's something that, the foul right there was able to slow Oklahoma State down, and they really need to get a bucket here because if they can't get a bucket on this possession, then you're going to be getting into more than a minute of a scoring drought, and then that's what you don't want. Because when Oklahoma State, it seems like when they get into a scoring drought the last couple of weeks, they're desperate. They get into desperation. Oh, we got to get a bucket. We got to get a bucket. We got to get a bucket. And they can't get a bucket. That's huge right there. It may.
He found that one.
First of all, Cade didn't know where the hell the ball was.
It
bounced off of him. But that's a big bucket right there because it eliminated any kind of a scoring drought. It gave them points and it kind of settled them down a little bit and slowed Iowa State down on the other end.
17-13 on, and by the way, we realize that since we're watching the stream, it may be a minute or so behind. So don't call if you're listening. Don't be like, no, the score says this. We know we're
you know
right
what?
there with it.
I hope we're ahead of anybody.
That's right. We're telling you what's going on.
A dunk!
Yeah, we'll start faking it, and then
that's what had happened when I'm at and I don't understand how it works now. Stream, I think, since everyone's on a stream, it should be pretty similar. But like if the game's on TV, something big will happen in a football game or in a basketball game or something, and I'll call my dad who lives just outside of Yale. He's got satellite TV, and I'm sitting here with a local cable company, and I'll call him like, dude, did you just see that? And he's like, no, see, I'm 15 seconds ahead, and that's an eternity in live TV.
Oh, it is. I'm telling you, and I have to because I don't do cable, so everything for me is on stream. And because I have everything linked to my phone, including Oklahoma State for updates,
right?
Phone is over here to where I don't get the buzz because something just happened there.
Yeah. I'll pause it. I'll pause the DVR.
That's right.
And let it set for a little bit, and then I'll press play. And Dad's like, "All right, what's going on?" I'm like, "All right, I'm at the 15-minute mark," and he's like, "Okay, you're still a couple seconds ahead of me." So I'll pause it again. And
that's what you have to do. Incredible save from Cade Cunningham right there. Just dove on the. Gave up his body, hit a big three a minute ago as well.
And the good thing is Oklahoma State they're forcing a 2+ minute scoring drought right now on the other end. So that's huge. Not only are they able to put some points on the board, jump out to that 7-point lead, but they're able to hold Iowa State. Right now they're at 2.5 minutes of scoring drought, and that's huge.
And there you see exactly what you want on the defensive end with Bernard Kuma in the game. Yeah. When he comes over, and he's going to be able to provide some of that extra help. He's a guy that with his size – Zach, you would love to see production out of Bernard Kuma, right?
Well, yeah, because that right there, I want to see a little more confidence too, because he gets the ball just on the inside of the 3-point line. There's no one within 10 or so feet of him, and he gets it to where his right side is facing the basket. And his first idea, he spins the opposite way away from the basket, trying to look for help on the outside. If he were to take 2 dribbles to his right and pull up for a 15-footer, like that's where I want Kuma to be.
I'm not sure that's part of his game.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And that's what's a little frustrating. Like I appreciate the fact that he's been able to come along enough this year that they can put him out there for extended periods, and chances are he's not going to give up too many points on the defensive end. He's gonna give you a body. He might get you a charge, but we need to get him to where he's productive on the offensive end a little bit.
Yeah, he gives you a breather for Caleb, and that's what they need right now.
For sure.
Cade Cunningham up to 8 points. Is it too early to say this might be the game? Right? We talked about.
I will.
We talked about earlier in the season that he has a chance in one of these games to really blow up in points. I think we talked to Frank about it last week, and we mentioned Iowa State. And he's already cooking at 8 points, shooting the ball well early.
4.
If he can get a early start like this scoring, and we know what happens in the second half, I mean, this is looking really good to start off with a 7-point lead. By the way, we'll have Frank Bonner joining us shortly as well. He is actually
in Gallagher?
No, he's actually covering the game from home today.
Smart.
Yeah, so he'll not have to avoid the.
I think the roads are fine now, but with that storm coming in a few hours,
he wants to make sure not have to mess with that. Don't blame him at all. So he'll still join us like normal today. We'll get to talk with him a little bit and get his updates on Oklahoma State, what he thinks, how he feels the game is going. Of course, we'll have buy or sell. It's going to be It's going to be like a live buy or sell going on here, so we'll get that going as well.
I've got an early buy or sell,
okay,
but I'm hesitant to throw it out there.
Because you don't want to jinx?
The broadcaster curse.
Yeah, you don't want to do the broadcaster
but I really
jinx.
want to.
Yeah.
Because it's good.
Okay, yeah, we might have to do it then.
So, you want me to do it now?
Whenever you want.
So, we're at the 11-18 mark.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State has not turned the ball over yet.
Ooh, wow.
We're 9 minutes into this game, and they have not turned the ball over.
That's a big number right there.
Buy or sell, Oklahoma State can go 1 minute and 18 seconds without turning the ball over. Get to that 10-minute mark. Because I'm okay with turning the ball over after the 10-minute mark.
Yeah.
But they're setting with no, and I think do they have the ball? I think they have the ball.
Yeah, I think so, dude.
So buy or sell. They can not turn the ball over.
I'll buy.
In
I think they can do it. They're moving it well. And that's what we saw early in the first couple possessions was good ball movement. And there's a lot of spacing to be had against this Iowa State defense. As you saw in the replay there with K getting that three-point shot up, nobody rotates over.
No.
I mean, in the wide open fast break, you look at all this space in the middle of the lane that we're seeing against this Iowa State defense. They're really porous. Now, this is even with everybody kind of back for them too. So, and I'll say that, with the games that Iowa State's played recently, it's been impressive that they've been hanging with OU and West Virginia, for example, a couple of times. So they're not just a shy away team by any means, but when OSU gets into their goodie bag, which is, hey, we're going to be running and we're going to run fast, we're going to run hard, and we're going to score points quick in the shot clock. Yeah, they're going to win this game. We'll keep an eye on that, 20-13. By the way, before we go to break, quick update again. I know that I mentioned it with Jordan and Tom earlier, but the Oklahoma State-Baylor game for this, there's the turnover, by the way. So I guess I
6 seconds. 6 seconds.
I didn't put.
I don't claim that.
I'm glad I didn't put money on that.
Well,
but
did you see it?
I
though?
did. Yeah.
They called an offensive foul on Rondell. It wasn't. At all.
That was a little touchy, it looked like there. The broadcaster jinx is still alive.
But
wow.
I'm not a broadcaster, though.
Well, what are you...
I technically am.
Yeah.
But not for this game.
Okay, that's true. We're just kind of commentating about it.
And I knocked on wood, so it's not on me.
That's not on you.
I don't claim that.
Not on you. By the way, just a quick reminder again, Oklahoma State Baylor.
Oh, they got it back. I'm okay with that now. We've evened it out.
This Saturday has been postponed. That's 6 straight postponements for Baylor. I know, Zach, you're steaming over there about Baylor.
So when I got the notification through email, it was from Stephen Howard forwarded from the Big 12.
Yes.
And I was like, I saw a notification that I think there was it Baylor, West Virginia? They classified it as postponed for inclement weather, I think. I think is what that was. It might have been Texas or something. But there was a game that had been postponed due to inclement weather. And I'm thinking, okay, that's cool. So let me go to Baylor and see if they have any information. 6 straight games due to COVID protocols.
Yeah.
Like their next game back, I think, is going to be the 23rd.
It's against Iowa State on the 23rd.
23rd against Iowa State.
They said that the other game that you're mentioning in the email was Texas and Oklahoma that has been tentatively moved right now to another date. So.
Also, what's another thing that's really important to mention with the Baylor Oklahoma State postponement due to weather or due to COVID. On the Baylor website, it said that they've postponed 6 games, 4 at home, 2 on the road, and there's a good chance that they're not going to make up all 6 of those games.
There's no way. It's like when Tom mentioned earlier in the show. He's like looking down he's like, how? How could you? Yeah. Honestly, so it's pretty brutal.
If they do make them up, it's March 6th through the 7th, I think, is the period that they could get some of those games in. Now with Oklahoma State game being a home game, or Baylor having the home game against OSU, it's possible that game is going to get made up because they won't have to travel on the road. But it is something to note that there's a chance same with the Oklahoma State West Virginia game. There's a good chance, not a good chance, but there is a chance that those 2 games for Oklahoma State might not get made up.
Yeah, absolutely is.
So mark that down.
We're running out of time here, that's for sure. When we come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, Frank Bonner will join us coming up next.
Yeah, run it back, tell him what I'm coming at. I was on that shit there, now I'm done with that. Scared of what I didn't want, scared of what I wanted, and thought that I was finished, but I hardly had begun. In fact, I'm a beast, I'm a monster, a savage, and any other metaphor the culture can imagine. And I got a caption for anybody.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and joining us now as always on Tuesday, Frank Bonner from the Tulsa World. Frank's even joining us, by the way, while there's a game going on. Like this, Frank is pulling double duty here. As he's watching the game, making sure to have everything ready for when he puts his stuff out on the game, and then he's joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Frank, what's going on, man?
Going well. I am actually covering it from the comfort of my home because of the weather, so that's a little different being at home while a home game is happening. But it's on brand for how this last year and a half has been for everybody.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's the best way to put it. Is a lot of different things going on. This is no different. It kind of feels like, I don't know about you guys, but to me it feels like a March Madness game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're watching games in the middle of the day here at 3 o'clock. That's kind of what I'm getting from this.
Yeah, and I think this is when everybody gets in March Madness mode in terms of teams trying to higher their seeding or teams trying to get qualifications. I mean, all these have March Madness implications in them, so we might as well be in March at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Frank Bonner from the Tulsa World joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. All right, so I'll go broad here to start with you, Frank. What do you think of the start so far for OSU here against Iowa State?
I think it's a much better start than the last one they had against Iowa State. You like to see Caleb Boone get out strong like he's doing, and then, you know, a lot of people talk about Cade Cunningham not having strong first halves, and obviously today he's having a really good first half. So there's not much more you can ask for OSU right now. And their turnovers, I think, are down. I don't know what the number is, but they aren't turning the ball over.
Yeah, just 2 right now, as Zach said. So that's a big improvement so far.
And one of them, I really wouldn't even classify as a turnover. It was that the offensive foul called on Rondell around the 11-minute mark, and I think it was really cheap. I don't agree with the fact, but I will say, if you and you're watching this game, you know, this is one, and I understand that Iowa State's 2 of 14 on the season. You know, they've lost 11 straight Big 12 games. They have yet to win a conference game, but they've been playing really, really well the past 2 or 3 games. Iowa State has. This is the most complete first half so far that I've seen from this Oklahoma State team. You know, they've limited turnovers. They only have 2 fouls. Like I said, 2 turnovers. Cade, you know, they're very possible he, you know, we were sitting here and it was that wide open 3 he had on the wing, and during the break, Pat was like, yeah, do you think he'll hit 30? And I was like, I'm going to be tentative right now just because it's so early. And he gets the ball wide open on the wing, and he's like, well, if he hits this 3, I think he hits 30. And sure enough, I mean, it was nothing but net. He goes 3 for 3 from 3 points. This is the game that I think many people thought Oklahoma State was going to play like throughout this season. Can they, you know, with this half, can they keep it up into the second?
Yeah, and I think the only reason why Cade wouldn't go for 30-plus is if they get so far out in front that Cade doesn't play that much.
I was thinking that earlier, yeah.
Well, I think if you look at the way that they've allowed teams to come back, I mean, that 18-3 run the other day against Kansas State, unless they come out and you can tell from the start of the second half, you know, and honestly, it's not even the start. I need to see something past the first 5 minutes. But, you know, I don't know if you can afford to keep Cade out unless you can actually tell that Iowa State just has no hope.
That's valid because, I mean, there's one thing for sure that you can count on OSU this season is they're going to go on a second-half scoring drought at some point, no matter who they play.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Frank, because against Kansas State on Saturday, even when they were up 20, right, I said that during that game, I was like, man, I did not ever once feel comfortable. And, like, that's something that, I mean, it's crazy, but it's true. It's like I've seen this movie too many times with OSU this year. If they could get over that hump, you know, I mean, the last thing you want to do is we're sitting here in March talking about whatever game they're playing in March and thinking, man, if they hadn't have allowed a 16-17-0 run or whatever here, they may still be playing in the tournament, right?
Yeah, right. And the bad part about that K-State win, I mean, obviously they got the win, so, you know, it was good in that retrospect. But if Kansas State, who's at the bottom of the league in points per game, if they can go on a 16-0 run against you, then every team is going to go in there thinking they can. If you let K-State do that.
Yeah. Same thing with Iowa State. You know, I think it's this. They're playing really well right now. You know, you're getting a complete game from Caleb down low. You're getting defensive help down low with Solomon Young when he's in the game. You're getting solid play from Cade. You know, they're trying to eliminate turnovers as best they can. If you can come out against Iowa State and you can hold them to a similar performance in the second half, then I'm optimistic moving forward through what easily could be the toughest stretch of the season for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and that's going to be these last few games are going to be real interesting.
Which is why I'm okay if they don't end up playing the Baylor game. A bit of a reprieve.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys about Baylor, like, because they've had so many games postponed, at what point do you move Michigan ahead of them
right
in
now?
the AP standing?
Right now. I mean, they've missed 6 straight games, and this isn't the first time that they've had COVID shutdown. They had a COVID shutdown earlier in the year. You know, and this is just indicative of how that athletic department is ran because of the issues they had during football season. I would there's no doubt that Baylor is one of the best teams in the country, but if they can't manage to not get COVID every other week and have to cancel multiple games, then I think you go ahead and move Michigan State ahead.
Well, and Frank, at the same time, think about it this way: Baylor, if they were to be moved down, Michigan goes up ahead of them. Baylor comes back on the 23rd to play Iowa State out of all teams.
Yeah.
They smack them really bad and then just get moved right back up, so they'd be fine with that.
Yeah, right. And it's if you look at the players, it's not their fault they're not on the court. But you missed out on some possible upsets. I mean, every college basketball team has a chance of getting upset. OSU is playing well right now, obviously against Iowa State. They go into that game on Saturday. Who knows what happens, right? Now Baylor doesn't have to worry about that danger anymore.
Well, and something that I don't agree with keeping a team in the same ranking if they're not playing due to COVID. That goes back to football season. Just because a team doesn't play, I don't agree that you should, especially 6 games. If Baylor missed like 1 or 2, then I'd be more apt to agree with keeping them in the same ranking. But they've missed an entire month of basketball. You're telling me that if Baylor comes back tomorrow and plays a game tomorrow, that they're going to be the same Baylor team as they were a month ago when they stopped playing? I don't think so. Especially if, you play Iowa State. If they were to bring Iowa State in, then I would be confident that Baylor could win. But you're telling me that if Baylor's next game was against Texas or West Virginia or Texas Tech or the way Oklahoma State's playing right now, that they would be okay with playing that game? I don't think so, because they're not the same team.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they have to drop to like 6 or 7, but you do have to reward teams like Michigan who are getting their games played. Ohio State is 17-4. Illinois, 14-5, and Baylor has played 17 games, so it's not like they're at a 10-game season. But 6 consecutive games, you got to reward the teams under them for getting their games in during that stretch.
Well, and then Baylor today, in the release they put out, they said there's a good chance they're not going to get all 6 of those remaining games in, the games that they have to make back up, because there's only going to be like a 6 or 7 day period in March where they're going to have a chance to get them back in. So that's something else that you have to consider, is you're not playing 6 games in a row, and there's a good chance they may only get 3 or 4 of those games in.
Yeah, but we'll have to see how that plays out. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, man, absolutely. We're talking to Frank Bonner here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. I wanted to ask you, Frank, about what you thought about Rondell. He got this first start out of the way against Kansas State. Back here today with no ice in. We just saw a play a minute ago where he's hustling there on the defensive end to try to force another turnover. But what have you thought about him in these first couple of starts? I know you really like watching him play.
Yeah, I thought he's been great, and I think, coming off the bench, what he's been for them, he's been their energy guy and everything. Well, putting him in the starting lineup, he was the exact same player. He started out strong in the last game. He's doing good things here. I mean, he is your spark. Now, obviously, when Isaac is healthy, you're at your best when Isaac's in the lineup. But, sometimes, like against Iowa State last time where they had those slow starts, Rondell kind of helps you prevent a slow start when you've got an energy guy like that who just, no matter whether he's scoring or not, he's going to force the issue defensively. No matter what he's doing offensively, you're going to get that out of him. And I think that's really good for them to have somebody like that in the starting lineup while Ice is out.
Yeah, it's a good point. He really does provide that spark when you need it. And I'm sure that these 2 games, probably made sense to you to go ahead and keep Ice out through this Kansas State, Iowa State stretch. You probably don't have too much trouble without him in the lineup here, and then hopefully get him ready to go for this really tough schedule coming up here. Of course, we don't know if Baylor, like we said, is going to be a part of it or not, but still with Texas Tech and 2 matchups against Oklahoma, it's not going to get any easier from here.
Yeah, I actually wrote about it following the Kansas game that, the upcoming games between K-State and Iowa State was really the only opportunity that the Cowboys had to rest Ice, because after these two games, the stretch of games gets really rough, and you want Isaac Likely on the floor. So I think this was the only opportunity, if there was one, to where he could get some rest, because you can't go into Bedlam and possibly Baylor and possibly West Virginia and then Texas Tech. You can't go into those games not having Isaac Likely if you expect to win.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to ask you as well, we have you, because I know we'll talk to you multiple times here before we get a chance to get the Big 12 tournament started. But realistically, right now, where do you see Oklahoma State in that tournament in terms of how far can they possibly go? Can they make a run there to hoist the trophy?
It depends on what Baylor looks like coming out. I mean, I think, and I know they played Baylor really strong without Cade in that first half that they played, but I think they're capable. I mean, they're capable of beating any team in the league, but I think the one that gives them the most trouble, just because they're so experienced in terms of the veterans they have on that team, is Baylor. Obviously, we've seen that they can get past Texas. They can get past Kansas. They've already beat Texas Tech. West Virginia, I think they can beat West Virginia. And so I could see them making a run, but I'm not quite sure if they can beat Baylor if Baylor comes back being the Baylor team as before. Now, if they have some hiccups and some rust because they haven't played in a while, then I could see OSU possibly upsetting Baylor as well. But I think OSU has the confidence that they go in there feeling like they can beat anybody, and then you got Cade Cunningham on your team to finish it off for you. I like their chances.
Let me ask you too here real quick before we let you go, because we were watching this game as we were talking, and Avery Anderson throws down a nasty dunk there and nearly had a really good block on the other end. But is it fair to say he's kind of been your unsung hero at times this year? I mean, we've mentioned a lot coming in with Ice and with Cade, obviously, and Rondell's taking some of the spotlight, but Avery's done some really good things this season.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, local media, when we were covering this team last year, we were like, man, if Avery can just figure it out mentally, like if he can get the plays down and stop having some of these mental lapses, he's going to be really good. And I think we see that this year. He's more comfortable in what he's doing. He knows his role, and you just see him, flourishing. And a lot of him, he doesn't get talked about on a game-to-game basis, because when Avery plays well, then you also have Caleb playing well, or Cade does something spectacular in the second half, and so on. And so nobody's really talking about him consistently, but he's just been steady for them all year. And players like Avery, if they do something special this year in the postseason, players like Avery will be the reason why, on top of Cade Cunningham and everybody else. But having an Avery Anderson do the things that he can do this year, that's going to help you.
Yeah, I completely agree. We saw Iowa State cut it to 12 there. So before we let you go, last thing, final prediction for this game. You mentioned it sometimes seems inevitable that OSU allows the team back in. Is that going to be the case here in the second half? Will Iowa State make a run, or is OSU going to put this thing away?
I see them making – it won't be like a 16-0 run like K-State, but I can see them making an 8-0, 10-0 run, something like that, or 10-2 run. But I do think OSU still wins by 15.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can live with that one, can't we, Zach? That's good stuff right there.
Well, I mean, you look at this first half. I mean, they've been at that 15 mark and around that 15 mark several times. I mean, they're at 12 right now. I think 15 is very doable, especially if you continue to get a performance like you have been from Cade. If Caleb gets back in the second half and he has a similar performance like he did in the second half or in the first half. If Avery, I was surprised Avery just hit his first 4 points in the last 2 to 3 minutes of this game. I was a little surprised those were his first points of the game. But if Avery keeps it up, yeah, I think 15 is absolutely manageable.
But I do think Iowa State will cut it to single digits.
No, you're right.
Before the game is over.
You're right, and I something that I want to see though, when Oklahoma State comes out in the second half, we've seen it a few times. They come out and score, maybe 10 quick points out of the break, and then that's when their 3, 4, 5 minute scoring drought kicks in. So I think that 15 to 8 minute mark, of the second half is going to be really, really important for this team.
I agree.
Frank, thanks so much as always, man. We appreciate you joining us here, and I know more snow is on the way, but try to stay warm over there.
All right, you guys do as well. I know you guys aren't used to this weather, so I hope it's going all right for y'all.
You know what my beef is though with this weather is it's very obvious that southern states are not equipped or prepared for this cold weather. And it's not fun. I don't enjoy it. This is some of the coldest weather I remember in my short 29 years of life on this earth. But it's northerners like you, Frank, that give grief to southerners. We don't build our houses preparing for 0-degree weather.
Trust me, I know you don't, because I'm in one of those houses now.
It'd be a lot different if we had insulated pipes and super insulated pipes, and our houses were super insulated, and I wasn't worried about an engine block cracking in 2-degree weather and my toilet freezing over like it is right now. I'm not happy that I can't use my master bathroom.
Frank is he's definitely used to it. Frank, I'm from Missouri, so it's I'm used to the really cold, but in the same day I'm expecting it to turn 50, maybe have a tornado warning later on in the night. So this is just
welcome to Oklahoma.
Yeah, a little strange with just the ice and the snow.
But I'm struggling because I thought that I got away from this. So although I'm used to it, I wasn't mentally prepared to be dealing with this in Oklahoma.
Do they have to do rolling blackouts up north, or are power companies prepared for weather?
No, they are prepared. Now, granted, when I was in 5th grade, we were out of power for a week.
Well, that's okay.
In Muncie. But, that happens. But in terms of rolling blackouts, it's coming, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's not like they haven't had 2 to 3 weeks to prepare for this weather.
Yeah, I've never heard of power companies saying we're going to have blackouts and people saying, make sure you unplug this and that to preserve. That's new to me.
I got news for my power company though. I'm making enchiladas for dinner.
You do what you got to do, okay?
I'm turning that oven on.
If you're stuck in the house, you've got to make yourself comfortable.
Yeah,
so make your enchilada.
I ain't eating no sandwich for dinner.
It's enchilada night.
It's enchilada
night. Lancaster household. Wow, there you go. Frank, stay safe, stay warm, man. We'll talk to you next week.
All righty, I'll see you.
All right, Frank Bonner. Appreciate him as always. Follow him on Twitter at Frank_Bonner2. Yeah, he's definitely used to that, but telling you, it's the severity of the cold. Last night, and then of course with the wind chill, that's just come on. Well,
yeah. So I went out. This morning, and it was cold. I'm okay with this weather, right? I don't care for if you drive slow, you'll be fine. I recommend not driving. But I went out this morning about 8:30 to start the cars, let them run for about 15-20 minutes. And it was shoo, 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 shoo. And then they finally fired up. But they made noises this morning that I ain't never heard before.
Yeah.
I was a little worried for a minute, and then after about 2 minutes, the noises went away. And I was like, it's warm. Okay, cool. We're all right.
Yeah, that's the sound you don't want to hear in this weather, that's for sure. When we come back here at halftime, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, OSU up by 12 right now at the half. We'll have more on the game coming up as the second half gets started. To round out this first hour, well, we mentioned last week that J.J. Watt was in the news. He's gone. He's no longer at Texas.
There you go.
And I'm sure he's not too sad about that at this point with the way the Texans are dealing with things right now. Reportedly has interest in one team at the moment. Let's talk about what team that is. That's coming up next here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Whoa. Staring as I go, I gave until my soul hurt, never told them so. Watching as I fall, somewhere down below. Maybe I'm just falling to get somewhere they want, get somewhere they want, get somewhere they want.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler. Zach Lancaster. Halftime, Oklahoma State and Iowa State. OSU is up 12 and rolling. Now, that was a good, Iowa State hit a big three there to kind of make it a respectable deficit there at halftime. They got a lot of work to do to keep it back up. And I think what's going to be the most interesting, and of course we'll keep an eye out for it early, is like Frank said, can we avoid that run? Can you avoid it? Can you keep the foot on the gas? Usually by this time, Zach, Cade doesn't have 15 points, right?
No, he's set less than 10.
So he's sitting here with 15, feeling good. And I think he's going to have a lot more to show us here in the second half. We'll get to him in just a bit as well. We'll have some live buy or sell coming up here in the second hour. I went in this first hour taking a look at what J.J. Watt. There was a report coming out today for him that said he is seriously considering, in quotations there, playing for the Cleveland Browns in 2021.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Now, they were a team we mentioned the other day, right, that we threw out there.
I think you look at Cleveland, and I don't think they're a legitimate threat to make a Super Bowl next year. I think Cleveland is still probably...
Don't say that to Cleveland fans. Of course, they remember when they got Odell, they were going to make the Super Bowl, remember? So
yeah, how many games did he play this year?
Yeah, barely any. Didn't matter.
I think they're not a legitimate Super Bowl contender, but I think they're a year or two out. If they can continue, you look at what Stefanski did this year, and you look at how that defense played, and you look at how that offense played. They've turned it around. So I think they're probably a few years away if they can keep that core together and they can keep that coaching staff together from legitimately making a Super Bowl, or at least attempting to make a Super Bowl. But you add J.J. Watt to that side. I think everyone here can agree he's probably got 2 to 3 years of solid football left before he really goes downhill. So you add J.J. Watt and you keep him healthy. He certainly I think maybe eliminates a year off of waiting to make a Super Bowl potentially.
Yeah, and 32 years old, as we know in the NFL, especially for that position, it's old, right? You're getting up there. And he's dealt with injuries, obviously, and significant ones too, yeah. So, but the other part of it for me is, yes, Kevin Stefanski did a great job this past season. He really did. And well-deserving of Coach of the Year, in my opinion. But look back at, there's no reason they shouldn't have beat Kansas City when Patrick Mahomes went down, right? And he was a big part of that to me. He coached them out of that game. The way they played so conservative at the end of that game, they were facing Chad Henne, and they didn't move on. It's really unbelievable when you look back at it. They blew an opportunity there to move on, and that's kind of the issue that I have with them, because you come back to this season, and it's like, okay, you got them in the AFC, so who are the two teams that are probably still going to have to find a way past? Well, Kansas City and most likely Buffalo. Right, they're probably going to be in their way at some point here. I think they can beat the Ravens. I think they can win that division. I think the Steelers are beatable. I don't know who's going to be a quarterback for them when it comes around. But for J.J. Watt there, I like the idea of him and Myles Garrett on the same team. I think that's scary. And the other part of it is if you've heard me talk about Baker Mayfield, one of the things that really has to go right for him to play well, he has to have a really good defense, a really effective defense playing for him as well. Because when he is the guy that's in charge of making a comeback happen, he's not there yet. He's working towards it. I think he has the ability. We haven't seen a ceiling for Baker Mayfield yet, and he played a lot better this year. But when he had the run game working like it did and the defense at times when it played well, that's when he really rolled. We
know why he wasn't able to come back, right?
Why is that?
Well, he didn't have Odell.
Oh, yeah, that was the big part of it. Yeah, when he went out, it was crazy. The success just started coming in.
Isn't that weird how that works? It's almost like people predicted he was a bit of a locker room cancer.
It's weird. Yikes. It's almost as if the multiple things that happened when he was in New York that were
maybe true.
Were eye popping off the field. We're like, oh, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't take a chance. But it didn't surprise anybody. Mm-hmm. That was a Cleveland thing, right? It made so much sense that at that time he would land with the Cleveland Browns. So I don't know. I think it's a risk with any team signing J.J. Watt because he's not young and healthy. But you do know what you have to gain from him. He's not going to give you an every down type of situation, type of production, but he is going to go out there and make plays, and I think a change of scenery could be great for him. So maybe not the Steelers, but imagine him on the Browns where he plays his brothers twice a year, right? That would be a lot of fun to see.
That would be.
Yeah, so we'll see if him and Myles Garrett on the same team, if Baker Mayfield keeps it up, the run game stays strong, which there's no reason it shouldn't. That is a legitimately dangerous Browns team. They're going to surprise some people. They win 11 games this year with what they did. And again, though, you can't be in a situation. How many teams right now would kill to have been in the Browns situation with Patrick Mahomes in his prime, not in the game, and you had Chad Henne and you didn't beat him, right?
Could you imagine have a defensive line with 2 Walter Payton Man of the Year award winners?
Scary.
Man.
If they had J.J. Watt out there with Myles Garrett,
averages out, right?
Would the Chiefs have been able to convert on 2 fourth downs or on a late third down and a fourth down there? I mean, it's
I think that's a Cleveland curse, though.
Yeah.
I think what they accomplished this year was more than what they like. If they were to do any better, I think it would have just been too much to handle. Mm-hmm. I think it for how bad that organization has been so long, it would have given the fan base too much hope. Because remember when LeBron went back to Cleveland and won a championship, and all of a sudden everyone thought Cleveland was the best basketball organization in the world, and we're talking what? Less than 3 years later, he was already out the door again, and they're back to being the bottom of the league.
Yeah,
I think if you had Cleveland and they were able to upset Kansas City, then the expectations would be Super Bowl, and it doesn't happen. And then this year, if let's say they only win 8 games, then all of a sudden Stefanski's gone. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
Cleveland fans are crazy.
That's why when they beat Pittsburgh the way that they did, that was kind of their Super Bowl. It was like, man, they stomped them, right? They took them out. And then they're in the playoffs and they're looking good. Nobody really expected them to beat Kansas City. I think they expected them to be competitive in that game, but didn't expect them to beat Kansas City. Then you had the chance and it obviously didn't work out. But
yeah, they wouldn't have been able to handle that much success.
I know. What would have happened, right? They go into that game with Buffalo, then what?
I am curious though how being a Cleveland fan works, because there are an insane amount of Cleveland fans in the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah, for Baker. Yep.
So I'm curious to see how all these new OU Cleveland fans handle not being good at football.
Yeah,
like how can you handle that?
It's quite a transition.
It's weird to like lump your bandwagon onto another bandwagon.
That's why they're hoping that Cleveland stays.
Do you need
successful.
Do you need a special certification on your driver's license to be able to pull 2 bandwagons?
Yeah, it has to say dual bandwagon puller.
Like you get they have several classes of CDL.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you need a class 1A bandwagon license to be able to pull 2
Absolutely.
of them behind you?
And you have to specify which ones they are too.
I thought so.
To make sure you're legal
that makes
and everything.
Sense. Okay, cool.
That's where we are right now. So we're getting ready. Tip off for the second half here, or just getting going, I should say, for the second half is underway here for Oklahoma State and Iowa State as OSU is currently up 42-30. We'll come back in hour number 2, get into some live buy or sell, and talk more about this game, break everything down in the world of sports later on, as well as we have a couple more running backs to get to as well, to break down some of their news, including one former running back for Oklahoma State, Chris Carson, has made some news today in the NFL. So we'll try to get to him too. All coming up, hour number 2.
And I don't know how we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow.
It's hour number 2 of the afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network with Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster. We're watching Oklahoma State basketball live today against Iowa State as this game was moved up to 3 p.m. Just the start of the second half here recently. OSU came in with the 12-point halftime lead. Currently the lead sits at 11. Cade is at 17 points. Yeah. He's really had his way so far. As we mentioned, Caleb Boone's had his way so far. 7 of his 8 field goals have been throwing the ball down with force.
Should have been that layup. He wide open.
Come on, I could have dunked it.
Should have been it.
They could have kept that streak going with dunks.
Really, he's running down the field regretting it.
He's like, man,
or running down the court rather.
You think in his head, he's like, have I dunked every single time? Yeah, he's lost track of how many dunks he's had in this game. So he's played well.
What's impressive though is you look at it. OSU is shooting 50% from the field.
Yeah, they're not missing
so
a
far
lot of shots.
Game.
That's what's great.
They're 50% from the field, 20 of 40 right now, which at this point is pretty impressive. They've kind of gone a little cold, but they're shooting 38% from 3. I think that's important. But you look at it, they've had 14 points off of turnovers. They're out rebounding Iowa State 25-17, and they've had 30 points in the paint. 30-14 and fast break points 16-2.
Yeah,
they're playing very well.
We know that's where they love to live, in that open court. So we'll get into some buy or sell here to start it off.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You pick up the phone and you sell, sell, sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, money, make money.
Buy or sell, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. It's a live buy or sell. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster here. It should be a lot of fun getting into this one. All right, you already know where I'm going.
I do.
Because I mentioned it to you earlier in the game. Buy or sell that Cade hits that 30-point mark. He's got 17 right now with 15:59 to go. Can he do it? He needs 13 more points.
Yeah, it's certainly doable. It's certainly manageable. They need to figure it out, though. You know, like we were saying during the break there, you click on second half point. Oklahoma State's only scored 7 points in this second half so far. So they've kind of gotten ahead of themselves a little bit. They need to settle down, quit taking some quick, kind of silly looks as soon as they get across the timeline. I'll buy 30. I think getting 13 points for Cade is very feasible, especially if he can. You go back to those other games, and 7 to 8 of his points late came from the free throw line. I can see Cade. I can see Cade getting a couple foul shots down the stretch, and maybe hit another big three and get a couple floaters. Yeah, I'll buy 30. I think that's very doable.
By the way, that stat I just saw there for Iowa State was wild. Last conference win, February 5th, 2020.
Yeah.
Wow. Over a year since they've won a conference game. That's really incredible. As we watch ball movement here, and they're missing. That's the thing right there, Zach. Before I get to this answer for you, Iowa State's had good looks, and they have missed a lot of open shots.
Also need to see Oklahoma State start to get some defensive rebounds.
Yeah.
There were, there's 1, 2, 3 shooting. Let's go to shooting here. So we got at least 3.
Well, you look at Iowa State right there, just what I said. Second half field goals are 2 for 11.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievably bad
And
shooting.
most of those misses are that was an impressive
Then they hit a
shot.
3 with Cade's hand in his face.
That was impressive.
Yeah.
Most of those misses were offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
You can't have that if you're Oklahoma State.
Jalen Coleman lands with 15 points. He's certainly their go-to guy. All right, so I'm gonna buy because Cade's getting more open looks than he has all season, and he's posting up as we've seen, which he'll do because he outsizes anyone that tries to play him right there, especially the guard position. But the threes he's had have been good looks, right? He's gotten into the paint where he's able to get high percentage looks in there as well. And the free throws are the other thing. Shoots 85% from the line, right? He's second in the Big 12 in that category, so he's going to knock those down too. I think he'll have plenty of chances to get there. And the way this game is going, unless OSU decides to go on a little bit of a run here as they turn it over again, unless they go on a bit of a run, he's going to be in the rest of the game, minus a foul out or anything like that. So I'll buy it. I think he can hit 30.
Yeah, so I'll go back to what we were talking about with Frank. Can Oklahoma State win by 15? Right now they're sitting at close to 3 minutes without hitting a field goal. Their 1 point came a few minutes ago with that free throw, the second in free throw made by Rondell. Iowa State, they're feeling it. They've got another bucket here. They've cut it down. They've cut it down to 7. Cut Oklahoma State's lead down to 7 here. So buy or sell, Oklahoma State kind of settles down here a little bit. They figure it out, and they buy or sell win by at least 15.
15.
And if you wait a couple seconds, it goes back up. Goes back up to 9.
The total was, the line was Oklahoma State favored to win by 11. I think last I saw that Vegas had them. So with MA's bucket there, yeah. So I'm going to sell. I don't think it gets quite to 15. I'll say a little bit less. I think it's double figures. I'll go 10 plus though. So if I were betting on it, yeah, I'd say they cover that 11. Let's give them a win by like 12 or 13. So close, but not quite. They have a lot of work to do here in the second half to get to that point.
Yeah, I think 15 is manageable. I think 15 is doable. I mean, if they can figure out how to get back to where they were playing in the first half, especially the way they played in the first half, with how dominant they were at times, making buckets on just about every single trip, then I think they can get to 15. Especially if they can figure it out on the defensive end. If they can start bringing in defensive rebounds on Iowa State misses, because it's very evident that Iowa State is not a good shooting team. Like you were saying, they were 2 of 11. Right now they're 16 of 44 overall, and in the second half they're 4 of 14. Most of it, all 4 of those buckets have come on the second chance points. Second chance rebounds. So I'll buy it, but they need to do a couple things to kind of shore things up here in the second half to get there.
Yeah, it's if you've seen what Iowa State has done so far in the second half, they've tried to limit some of these fast break opportunities, and that's kind of what we had hit on in that first hour. If the Cyclones want to keep this game close, you have to do your best to slow OSU down, get them in their offensive sets, because they can still score out of those offensive sets. We know that. But they love being able to get a couple of passes, get a good look at the hoop, get an open three, that type of thing with their ball movement, as we see Avery Anderson a couple of free throws there, and it's back up to an 11-point lead for Oklahoma State, 53-42. Okay, let's see. My next one, we mentioned there with Caleb, all he's doing is dunking. All right, buy or sell 2 more dunks before this game is over.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
Okay, he's going in.
I'll buy 2 more. I mean, he's setting with, 14 points. And 6 of those shots came on dunks. He's 7 of 8 from the field. I'll buy 2 more. I'm curious to see when he comes back in. You go back to the first half, and he's played 18 minutes, and those kind of came. He did really well to start the game, and then he sat for quite a while, and then he came in for a few minutes, and he sat for a while. So I think you're gonna need to see him get some consistent minutes. But I'll buy 2 more dunks. I think that's very easy.
Yeah, I'm going to as well, because what you've seen Caleb benefit from is not just he's running the floor well, obviously, when he's in there, but those high screens and the pick and roll, there's nobody rotating over. You and I saw they paused it a couple of times, and once the ball was touched by Caleb off that roll, there's nobody in the lane. There was no help side defense, and he was taking advantage of that all day long. I have no reason to believe that it won't be part of OSU's game plan to get him more touches and more coming off the pick and roll, because Iowa State's refusing to play defense against him. And I have to say this too. I think so far, Zach, that they've done a good job of deciding when to get him in and pull him out, right? They've limited him in terms of making sure he's fresh out there on the floor. M.A. giving him some solid minutes when he's not in there. But if Caleb ends up being your kind of – that's where Oklahoma State would love it. If you could have Caleb and M.A. as your 1-1A guy down low, with the guard talent that you have, that's why this team, when they start to really become complete, and this is a good chance here to get it started. But Iowa State is clearly, they've made their run so far here. They're now at 7-point game and chipping even closer into this lead as a 3-point play opportunities coming up here.
They've hit 4 out of their last 5 shots.
Yeah, so we know this had the possibility. Avery Anderson called for that foul there. That's a tough one, but he was moving a little bit. They're going to call that all day long. All right, what else you got for me?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with turnovers. I brought it up yesterday. Buy or sell, Oklahoma State has less than 15 turnovers. We're at the 11:43 mark of the second half, and Oklahoma State's setting at 7. So buy or sell, Oklahoma State can keep under that 15 mark. I would say 10, but there's still basically 12 minutes left, and that's 3. So I'll stick with 15. Can Oklahoma State kind of right the ship a little bit and keep under that 15 mark of turnovers?
Yeah, I think they can. I'll buy that they can keep under 15. But they got to tighten it up here a little bit. This is around this time where we've seen in past games that they seem to get a little loose with the basketball, right? And I don't know what that is, about late in games where they're trying to push the pace maybe too much and it gets out of hand a little bit. But they did a nice job for the most part limiting some of those in that first half against Iowa State. Like you said, the first half of that first half, really, and mostly towards the end. Obviously, Iowa State hit a big bucket there at the end. But before that, they were playing really, really sound basketball, some of the most sound we've seen this season in terms of everything going their way, how they want it planned, and not turning the ball over as much. So I'm going to buy that because while I do understand that this past week, in the time off before Kansas State, it was a huge focus. Like, let's not turn the ball over anymore, and they didn't really do that against the Kansas State team. They still turned it over quite a bit. This is a chance to kind of right that a little bit. If you come off this game with less than 15 turnovers, right, which is certainly doable, you're able to build off that and say, okay, let's go back and look at this tape and see. Let's look at our ball movement. Let's look at our ability we weren't going and dribbling into a spot and getting trapped or anything like that. Did a lot of things right in terms of protecting the basketball, and the biggest thing, they're valuing every single possession, right? They did that in that first half, and that was one of our keys yesterday, was against even Iowa State. Look, you saw it right here. You give up a number of possessions, even Iowa State, how poorly they shoot, will find a way to get back into the game. Start valuing every single possession they get here and make sure they get at least one or two solid looks. If they get an offensive rebound, then we're talking about a game with less turnovers.
Yeah, I'll buy it, but I need to see Cade turn it up a little bit. Cade hasn't hit a bucket since the 3:28 mark of the first half. We're at the 11:43 mark of the second half. So if Cade gets going here, if let's say whatever Bolton does on this free throw here, if he makes it or whatever, Cade needs to go down, and he doesn't need to try to create for other players. This is when Cade needs to turn it on. Cade needs to go out here the next couple of possessions and hit a couple of buckets. If Cade can turn it back on and he can kind of silence Iowa State a little bit, then I like the fact that Oklahoma State can keep it under 15. I mean, you look at scoring. The last media timeout at 15:59, Oklahoma State has, well, they just hit a bucket, so that's a little. But they had scored 5 points. They were 1 of 4 from the field in the last 4 minutes. So Oklahoma State needs to get it going, but I like them 15 less turnovers. So
I'm going to throw you a bonus one here since we have a little time kind of watching this game. I was looking at it earlier today, and there was a couple of reports on some coaching changes, things going on with the Detroit Lions and not Matt Stafford anymore, Jared Goff, and as you like to call him, Jared Goof.
Yeah,
it made me think, okay, let's look back at the number of touchdowns he's had per season since he's been in the league. And the most he managed to have was that Super Bowl year of 2018 when he threw for 32 touchdowns. He still had 12 interceptions. The fewest picks he's ever thrown has been 7 interceptions in a season. So buy or sell that in this first year with the Detroit Lions, he goes for over 30 touchdowns.
That's a lot, I think.
For Jared Goff, it might be.
Yeah,
he's only done it once.
Yeah, man, that's tricky because it very possibly could be the situation he needs. Get out of LA, get out of the pressure cooker, because there's not going to be the same pressure on him in Detroit than there was in LA. The expectations in LA are win a Super Bowl. You nearly got there against the Saints, or you nearly you got back to a Super Bowl and you fell apart. You were able to cheat your way past New Orleans, and then just Kansas City just beat the brakes off of them. So Detroit, I mean, you just want to have a winning season in Detroit. So I think he's successful. I think he has a good year. There's a big 3 there by Cade. That's huge. I'll sell. I don't think he hits 30. I think he could get close. I think maybe low to mid 20s. But I would struggle to say he hits 30.
Yeah, and with the receivers he had in LA, there was no reason to not be in that range. But going away from the game plan of throwing the ball as much as they did in that Super Bowl year, and even the year before that when he had 28 touchdowns, it wasn't going to give him a chance. I don't know what their plan is in Detroit. Are they going to unleash Jared Goff's ability to where they can let him throw it more freely, or are they going to focus on, we have a young running back in DeAndre Swift who showed a lot of promise last year. Are we going to run the ball a lot more and kind of set Jared Goff up? If they're smart, they'll use play action to their advantage and tailor it to Jared Goff's strengths. Kenny Golladay, as we heard, might get the franchise tag, so he might at least have a solid number 1 target to throw to. Marvin Jones is maybe a good number 2. T.J. Hawkinson at the tight end spot. So there is some weapons there, but it's not Robert Woods and it's not Cooper Kupp by any means. So I'm going to sell. I think he gets close. We might see another year of 28, 29, really knocking on the door of 30, but it's all going to depend on if Detroit realizes how to use Jared Goff's strengths, because he still has it. Like, I don't think he's an elite quarterback right now by any means, in any stretch of the imagination, and it's going to take a while for him to bounce into that status if he ever does. Because he does have some ability, but you really, as an offense and the coaching staff, you got to be able to run things to where he can succeed. You got to set him up for success, because a lot of the time, I'm sorry, he's just not going to do it himself. On the other hand, though, I was thinking about this. With Matt Stafford flipping positions, I could see him easily going over 30 touchdowns. Agreed. With the Rams, though.
Agreed.
That might be flipped.
I'm really excited for Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I'm too.
I want to see him with a team and an organization that gives him a chance to play well. Because I think Matt Stafford is a really good quarterback. He's just been in a pretty crappy situation for the last decade.
Yeah, he's really fundamentally sound, right? He's been around. He knows how it goes. He can still hit the deep ball. He still has quite a bit left in the tank, I believe. You throw him with a couple of really legit weapons there in that play style that they run in L.A., yeah, I'm really liking the outlook here, and he might pass that 30 touchdown mark. We come back here on the afternoon sports drive. We'll keep you up to date with this Oklahoma State game. They're up 58-47 over Iowa State, just under 9 minutes to go in this second half. We'll keep up with that as well. Some news out of the NFL for some running backs, including former Oklahoma State running back Chris Carson. We'll get into what's going on with him and then what we learned coming up too in the second hour. This is the afternoon sports drive. Welcome back. Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster watching Bryce Williams getting some attention. He got smacked in the nose.
Yeah, here we go. I figured it'd be on this block attempt. He take an elbow?
Yes, he did. Yeah, elbow right to the nose. And he was gushing blood on that one. So obviously I had to deal with him there. Tough kid. I'm sure we'll see him back in at some point once they get that stopped. With Oklahoma State and Iowa State, 62-51 lead. Yeah, Bryce still. It might have been the mouth even a little bit, too, around there.
Yeah, he's heading into the locker room. So he took a shot.
Hopefully he won't have to have any stitches or anything like that, and maybe see him back out there before this game's over. 8:05 marker is where we have it, and MA's got a chance to convert a three-point play. As you said to me, Zach, there, like on that play, that's just, as I said to you, you get into the offseason here, MA gets back in the weight room, and, he's able to run the floor like that. He's able to actually, post up more often next season. And that's kind of the thing, is he's not necessarily your traditional going to get on the block and back in. He likes to get touches at the high post, and he's able to use his athleticism to get inside there as he gets a turnover right there too. Man, he's going to be fun to watch.
And then that pass down court. Yeah,
and then
that move right there, my God, and I said this a while back too, and I think I'll reiterate it here. There's no question that Landon, the number one overall prospect in the country, 5-star Cade Cunningham, is great for a program, right? It's going to look really good when he goes top 5, top 3 in the NBA draft coming up here in April or May or whenever it is. But I think MA and Woodruff, he had mentioned this. I don't remember when it was. I think it was the year before Cunningham committed, I think. He had done the research that programs that aren't the typical blue bloods like, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, when you land a top 10 5-star prospect, it doesn't pay dividends in recruiting down the road. I think it was like 20% of schools that landed a 5-star actually benefited beyond that the one and done year at their program. So
yeah, We've seen schools like Gonzaga kind of step up into that role a little bit.
They're starting to figure it out.
Baylor maybe now.
But MA, I think, is the best signing in this recruiting class. I think the commitment of MA is going to pay the biggest dividends, because I think MA is going to be in Stillwater for at least 3 years, right? And unless he just has one of the most insane sophomore years in the history of college basketball, I think I'm confident and comfortable saying that he's going to be here at least another 2 years. And when you have a player like MA on a team for 2 to 3 years, guys are going to want to play with guys like MA. He is going to bring so much over the next 2 to 3 years. And Oklahoma State they did a hell of a job going up to Ontario and bringing MA down to Stillwater.
Yeah, when I heard about him and saw some of his tape, he was the most the other guy besides Cade, obviously, that I was most excited about watching this year, and he hasn't disappointed the way he's played, especially this game. There, as you see Cade, another problem. He got into a double team and made a bad pass and turned it over. Things that, as I mentioned, how many times have I said that to you, Zach, that when he dribbles to a spot like that and picks up his ball, that's the trouble.
And that turnover right there led to Avery Anderson's third foul.
Yeah.
That's not where you want. There's still 6.5 minutes left. That's not where you want Avery Anderson with 6.5 minutes left with 3 fouls.
Yeah, absolutely not. 65-53, Oklahoma State lead here. Iowa State at the free throw line. All right, so in the NFL, Tom Brady isn't the only player who wants to play into his 40s.
Sure.
But it seems like you rarely hear about a running back ever wanting to do that. Adrian Peterson said that he would like to play into his 40s today, wants a Super Bowl, and said he wants to pass Emmitt Smith on the all-time rushing list. He's currently, right now, 3,535 rushing yards away from becoming the NFL's all-time leader. He would be 40 in 4 years. So extra buy or sell here for you. Will he ever pass that mark? That's
What's he need to break that
mark? He needs
3,550
or 535 yards to do that, and that would break the record Emmitt Smith holds of 18,355 total yards.
That's a lot of yards for a back that is his age. Yeah, I'm gonna sell. I'll sell that, because you look at what he did. He only had 600. So 2018 was a big year for him. He put up 1,000 yards for the first time since 2015.
Yeah.
But then he put up 898 the next year, only 604 the year after that. Almost 4,000 yards is a lot of yards to try to get. I don't know if his body can hold up 4 years, so I'll sell it. For a couple of reasons. I think he's good, but it's a lot of yards to get, and it's a lot of years to play for someone who has struggled with injury.
Yeah, see, that's kind of where I am with it as well.
If he were less than 3,000, I'd be more apt to buy, but with him being over 3,000, that's a lot.
So that'd be 5 more seasons to hit 40 years of age. So he would need 707 yards a season, which
I think that's a stretch.
I don't think he's ever going to find a role that gets him that much, because the numbers, as he said, have dipped because he's also taken a lesser role on different teams this past year, which, by the way, watching this Thanksgiving game between him and the Texans, I thought I was back in or like you said, 2018 or before that, watching him score 2 touchdowns on Thanksgiving. I was like, wait a minute, what? Wow. So he took too many touches away from DeAndre Swift. That frustrated me this year. But he said he wants to go to Tampa Bay. He's interested in going to Tampa Bay so Tom Brady can win him a Super Bowl. He's going to be the LaShawn McCoy.
Is that the one thing he doesn't have?
Yeah, he doesn't. He wants to win a Super Bowl. Yeah, but can't you see him being like the LaShawn McCoy, where he doesn't have a snap in the Super Bowl? He's on Tampa Bay's team, gets the ring, calls it good.
Yeah, I would think though that if he were to go to Tampa Bay, which I know Leonard Fournette is still up in the air whether or not Fournette's going to be back.
Yeah.
But even if he doesn't come back, I think he would play a bigger role than LaShawn McCoy did.
I agree.
But I don't see it being, him getting 700-800 yards and 12 touchdowns, and I don't that. Did MA just step in?
Yeah, I think he did. That's what they called. That's what the ref called.
I don't see. I think that would be a big stretch.
Yeah,
for him to do that.
You would be, if Leonard Fournette wasn't there and you had Ronald Jones, you could certainly get him into that role in terms of getting a couple of extra touches here and there. But he needs to relegate himself to a third down back on a team and be happy with that. So I don't know if I can see him ever getting to that mark of beating Emmitt Smith. I was trying to figure out here why.
Well, they called Cade for a tech.
Okay, they did.
After, I think he got up.
He got upset. That's why he threw the ball.
ball.
Yeah, they might have called it a tech delay of game thing there. So
Yeah, Cade threw the ball.
yeah, I didn't like that call, but clearly it was. I think it happened there on MA. So 68-50 or 67-58 lead here for Oklahoma State. Iowa State with the ball. So I'm gonna sell that too. I think I love watching Adrian Peterson play, but I don't know how much wear and tear that body can take anymore. The other news to get to: former Oklahoma State running back Chris Carson. Today it was reported that Seattle will probably not have him back next season. So this could be most likely the end of his term with Seattle.
Well, and weren't we, was it November? Beginning of November, end of November. It was either before I got sick or after I got sick. That was one of our buy or sells. Chris Carson staying in Seattle. And I think we both said no, but it wasn't because Seattle was going to release him. It was because he wanted to have success somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like $8 million or something like that. But the thing is that there will be a team that will
immediately.
Yeah, they will overpay.
Less than a week.
Right, and he'll be happy to take a large payday from another team.
What do you buy or sell 10 or more?
Probably right above that.
Because someone's going to be willing to pay 10.5, 11.
Yeah, I think he could probably find a deal there. That's because he's getting up there too a little bit, but he's still, the problem has been health. Yeah. When he's healthy, man, he bowls over defenders like he did here at Oklahoma State. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can be a workhorse running back. So I think there's a team that's going to get plenty of value out of him. But it's interesting to see from Seattle because they were like, hey, remember, this is what we talked about with Pete Carroll this whole time. We're going to run the football. We're going to run it all the time. That's going to be our identity. Even though we have Russell Wilson, who cares? We're going to run the football. And everyone's like, okay, well, I guess that means Chris Carson's sticking around. No, maybe not. You got Rashard Penny up next, who is a young running back. Maybe he gets a starting role unless they draft somebody. DJ Dallas is certainly not going to be your guy. So we'll keep an eye on where Chris Carson might end up. But right now, just an update on him. It's looking like it won't be with the Seattle Seahawks this upcoming season. When we come back here on the afternoon sports drive, we'll keep breaking down this game. Just 4 minutes to go. Oklahoma State up 70-58 on the Iowa State Cyclones here. We'll keep talking about that and get you out of here with near the end of the game here on the show. We'll tell you what we learned as well. Coming up, this is the afternoon sports drive.
Who's probably gonna sin again. Lord forgive me, Lord forgive me. Things I don't understand. Sometimes I need to be alone. Trick don't kill my vibe. Trick don't kill my vibe.
I can feel your energy from 2 planets away. I got my drink, I got my music, I would share it, but today I'm feeling trick don't kill my vibe. 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 Look inside of my soul and you can find gold and maybe get rich. Look inside of your soul and you can find out it never exists. I can feel the changes. I can feel a new life. I always knew life can be dangerous.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster watching Oklahoma State put this game away.
If you're curious, Iowa State has not scored in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it sounds about right, the way that they've shot most of this game, and there you go. That's a really good representation right there of OSU kind of not giving up. I mean, you had Cade and Caleb both going for that ball.
3 offensive rebounds by MA right there.
Yeah, I mean, he's really played well, man. In the time that we've watched him, he's stepped up. You forced Iowa State into a bunch of desperation threes here late in this game.
I got a late buy or sell for you.
Okay.
So there's a minute left in this game. MA is setting at 15 points and 9 rebounds. Buy or sell, MA gets a 10th rebound.
Yeah, he's gonna get it. He's gonna get it because I'm wrong on the Cade points. So that
we're setting at 14 turnovers. For OSU.
Yeah, and we're one away.
14 turnovers.
That's still too high, man. I mean, it is plain and simple. Like Iowa State certainly beatable when you do that.
What's crazy though is this is 10 less turnovers than the first time they had it.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah. This was also a game against Iowa State where the first matchup, Cade was a non-factor, right? I mean, and this time he's coming in and making a huge difference. He did that from the start. That's what was so good to see. He did that from the very, very beginning. Was getting out there, scoring points. A lot of nice passes that we saw from him as well, and that's so important to OSU right now. There's MA. Oh man, if he right there, he had a chance for the double-double.
Just miss it, and then get your rebound.
Yeah, he had a chance.
I don't think we're gonna get it because Iowa State. Dang it. Iowa State gets a turnover with 21 seconds left.
19 points from
so Stat Broadcast is about 10 seconds ahead.
How about that? He had a really solid game today, so that's great to see. All right, to round out the show, we're going to tell you what we learned here on this Tuesday.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the afternoon sports drive.
Well, I learned something today.
I've actually got some great news for what I learned today.
Yeah?
Part of the storylines into the Super Bowl this past couple of weeks, obviously we're game, and we get all that. But Britt Reid was in some trouble, right, when he ran into a car that caused an accident, put a little girl in the hospital, 5-year-old girl, and she woke up from her coma today. How great is that?
That's too cool.
That's great news. And right now, the GoFundMe page for them, that family, has raised over $448,000. So a lot of great work put in there. Britt Reid, obviously Andy Reid's son, and was a coach on the Kansas City Chiefs squad, has been relieved from his duties, as I would think that would probably have been the case anyways. They're still investigating it as a possible DUI, but I think he's just got to be lucky as anybody right now with the fact that she woke up. That's great news, because this could have gone a lot worse. So hopefully she recovers fully. You have to hope that she gets a chance at a normal life here. So it was bad. It was obviously really tough to hear, and I couldn't imagine. Andy Reid was asked about it multiple times before the game, like how are you distracted by this and whatever. He's like, my game plan's a game plan, and that's the right way to go about it. But I can't imagine him with that in the back of his mind trying to coach a Super Bowl, for crying out loud. And then it ended up being the way that it did on the scoreboard. Obviously didn't help things either, but tough guy in Andy Reid. So it's great to hear that little girl's out of her coma.
Yeah, that's such a blessing and great news for that family, and obviously continued prayers for her continued recovery, and hopefully she can bounce back fully 100%. So that's awesome there. Oklahoma State, man, I'm going with OSU because this game just went final.
Yep.
TV shows 76-58. Stat Broadcast shows 74-58. So I'll be curious exactly what the final score is. But this was huge. Cade didn't get to 30, but, he finished with 21. MA had a massive game. Caleb finishes with 15, and MA finishes with 17. And that just goes to show you, that's huge because they were going up against a pretty solid big man there in Solomon Young, and they held Young to 6 points. So that's huge. The fact that, they came in, and I know Iowa State hadn't won a conference game. They were 0-11 coming into this game, but the last 2 to 3 games were pretty solid. They went to Norman and nearly upset OU, and played Texas well, and played Kansas well in 2 straight games. And so the fact that OSU was able to settle down and have a massive first half and really kind of hang on late in the second half was a big bonus for me.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that we saw that were important for this OSU team today against Iowa State, which we knew had the potential to happen here, and that's one, Cade scoring early. Was a big part of it. That's great to see, man. With his ability, if he's able to put in 15 points in the first half.
And they kept it under 14 turnovers.
Right, and that too. It's still a fairly high number for me, but I'm with you. It's a good way to kind of maybe get in a roll in terms of let's keep those numbers down a little bit. And overall, when you get those points from your two big men, you're going to be able to. I mean, if you have performances like that from Caleb and MA, oh man, there's a lot of teams that are going to be running into a buzzsaw when they play OSU with the guard play they provide.
Absolutely. Snow's coming in.
Yep.
It's not snowing yet. Looks like it's still south of the city, but snow is coming in. So just stay safe tonight. It's supposed to get cold. Drip water. If you've got drip your warm water as well. I found that out last night. Drip your hot water as well as your cold water. But stay safe. Stay off the roads if you don't have to, and just get ready for 47 over the weekend.
Yeah,
we're getting into the 40s.
Almost there. That's
Cannot
for
wait.
sure. That's Zach Lancaster. I'm Patrick Wheeler. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive. Everyone have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday evening. We're back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock.